Hello, welcome to another episode of the Intrepid Traveler. I am very fortunate to have another wonderful guest today, and Lesa Bain of Lindblad Expeditions is going to tell us all. We're going to talk about Alaska today, but before we do that, I want to say it's interesting. It's always interesting to me how people get started in this field. And it's one of the things I love about doing this podcast. And she's told me she started in radio. She's from Australia, from the Hunter Valley, which is one of the most beautiful places on the planet, and then ended up moving on to South Korea, then to Japan, then back to Australia, where she fell in love with expedition travel through Orion expeditions, her job with Orion expeditions, and then finally ended up in the United States. Is that it in a nutshell?
Yeah, that's a good nutshell. Yeah.
Okay, well, as much as I'd love to delve into all of that, but let's sort of pick it up in Darwin, where, and for anybody that's listening that doesn't know exactly where Darwin is, that's in northern Australia, and there was a company at the time called Orion Expeditions that you worked for there, and so tell us a bit about that, how that got going.
Yeah, so I actually was working in the hotel business in Darwin, and I met this amazing woman who had a one-ship expedition company, and they did the Kimberley, which is to this day close to my heart as one of the most amazing places to go and visit. And we were moving back to the United States, my husband and I, with his job. And she said, well, oh my gosh, we've just joined this wonderful little consortium called Virtuoso. Would you mind helping us out? So I started working for Orion Expeditions in the States. And about 10 years ago, we were purchased by Lindblad Expeditions. So I had the great fortune of going from this one ship little expedition company to probably the most renowned and respected expedition company in the world, not probably, most certainly, most respected expedition company in the world with Lindblad. So this year would be 10 years I've been with them, which
Wow.
has gone in the blink of an eye, which is
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's fabulous. Well, it's obviously obvious that you love what you do. And the Orion, that particular ship actually ended up being part of the fleet at
Yeah.
Lindblad, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, she's the National Geographic Orion, 102 guests, still, I think, one of the most beautiful little yacht-like expedition ships in the world. And what is really amazing is the family on that ship, the crew, the Filipino crew, our service crew, on the whole is still the same team that was there when that
Wow.
ship was in Australia. So it shows the kind of longevity
Hmm.
of and the love of this kind of travel that even our crew has.
Yeah.
So whenever you get on board, I will tell you the one thing about that ship that I adore, coming from Australia, and you've been to Oz,
Yeah.
you get the best cappuccinos in Australia, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everywhere else you go, it's like, eh.
Yeah.
You get on that ship, it is the best cappuccino at sea. So just
Oh,
a heads up.
interesting. Interesting. Well, it's interesting you bring that up because of the other thing that I remember from my time in Australia was it's the best Thai food outside of Thailand as well.
Yeah,
So
it is very much so.
anyway, okay. So now before we even talk about the history of Lindblad expeditions, real quickly, how did Lindblad and National Geographic team
Yeah.
up and what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can see from the logo above me here that you've got Lindblad and National Geographic. And about 15 years ago now, an alliance was formed between Lindblad Expeditions and the National Geographic Society. You know, Lindblad was going to these remarkable places all over the planet, and the National Geographic was sending scientists and researchers out into the field. And so it was like a perfect opportunity for the two to come together, for us to be going to these remote places and there are opportunities for their researchers or scientists to join us in the field and continue their work. But we also have our Lindblad National Geographic Fund, which
Hmm.
raises money that goes towards our Lex Fund, our Lindblad Fund, that supports research and initiatives all around the planet in the places we explore. So by traveling with us, guests really are supporting this good work of the National Geographic Society and their teams all over the place. So it's, sustainability is a key, and I know we're going to talk about this later,
Yeah.
but for us, sustainability is at the very heart and soul of who Lindblad is.
Yeah.
And so it was just the perfect relationship.
Yeah. Well, it's a win-win, it sounds like,
Yeah.
because, it's everybody, the guests on boards are benefiting, the researchers, the company, it's good for all. So it's awesome.
Very much.
Now the company was founded by Sven Lindblad, and tell us a little bit about that and why what made him decide he
Yeah.
wanted to do this.
We're even going to go back one more generation to
Okay. All right.
Lars Erik
Oh, I'm
Lindblad.
sorry.
So,
I said the
no,
wrong name. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
no,
yeah. Go ahead.
well, they're kind of
Yeah.
they're both extreme, both equally important, because there's kind of two sections to Lindblad expeditions.
Right.
So way back in the 50s, 60s, Lars Erik Lindblad
Right.
was kind of out exploring and seeing this amazing planet. And he very quickly realized that a lot of these remarkable places on the planet habitat was being lost, wildlife numbers were dropping. And it was because they didn't have a voice. If you don't know something is in peril, then you can't help it. And so he really believed that if we took people, impassioned them, educated them, they would return as a voice for preservation. So they would be our voice and share what they had learned. And so he took the very first guests. So this was a very bold move. He chartered a little red ship and he took the very first guests ever to Antarctica in 1966. So you imagine, you put an ad in the paper and say, I'm going to Antarctica. I want some folks to come with me. And these amazing men and women signed up on a wing and a prayer to go to Antarctica. And that's back in the day where, we were charting our own course.
Right.
You didn't, back in those days, you didn't know, don't walk on icebergs, they have a terrible tendency to tip over. Don't, things you couldn't do.
Yeah.
And so he really forged the path and the educational component of how to approach each of these places. And the following year, Lars Erik took the very first guest to the Galapagos Islands. And what was really important there was he realized their significance, and he actually paid the wages of the first two park wardens to help to ensure that the national park was established. Because today, if you go to the Galapagos, it's actually a wonderful story in how we can reverse the ravages of what we do as humans to places. Like there were lots of non-endemic species that were destroying the vegetation, and therefore the numbers of giant tortoises were lower. So by helping to set up the national park, but by then supporting them financially, a lot of those non-endemic species have been removed. So today, when guests go to the Galapagos, they're actually getting this really amazing story of, look what we can do to reverse our impact.
Right.
And we don't always hear good news stories.
Yeah.
And so to know that we can make a difference is really gratifying. And I think that's what clients walk away from the Galapagos. They go, we can do it here, we can do it in other places, right? We need to embrace that we can make change and not always just be like, oh my gosh, we can't do anything. We can.
Well, and that's so important that I think oftentimes all people see from travel is they're like, oh, it's just, you're just, this giant carbon footprint and you're just making things worse. And you're just, the more you travel, the worse things become. But it's something I've focused on in other podcasts as well, is that there are so many ways we can make a good difference through travel. So awesome. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the history and touched on the Galapagos. We're going to go to Alaska in a minute. Do go to all 7 continents, which is amazing as well, and which means we're going to have to do this again because we can't talk about all 7 continents in one day for sure. But the reason that I kind of wanted to focus on Alaska today is that at the time of this recording, which is April of 2022, currently you're still having to test to re-enter the United States. There are a lot of people that, one, don't want to do that, and two, I think that the last couple of years, because we haven't been able to travel as freely, Alaska has seen a big, I won't even say resurgence, I think it's just sort of it really went to the forefront of people's minds because it is a destination where people can go that is feels different. It's more remote. It's, the beauty is just unbelievable. It's just a different feel from staying in the contiguous United States. And so I've had the good fortune to be able to book some trips to Alaska. I've learned a lot more about it myself. And we have booked a trip together just recently. And so let's talk about what Lindblad offers in Alaska. I know there are different choices. So you take it from here.
Yeah, sure. No, certainly. Look, I'm going to take one little step back and kind of talk about what makes an expedition, because that will
Absolutely.
segue
Yes, very good
beautifully
point. Yep.
into what we do in Alaska and how it's different.
Yep.
Look, we are very intimate in scale. Like, we started small ship expedition, and for us, this is all we do, and we do it exceedingly well. This is what we have experience in, and with that comes safety and a knowledge of the regions that we explore. We've been up in Alaska close to 40 years. Our biggest ship is 148 guests.
Hmm.
Guests. You know, people think small and they think, oh, 600 is small. That's not, that's
Right.
huge to us,
Right.
right?
Right.
For us, it is about, if you're approaching wildlife and cultures and absolute stunning beauty in the places we're going, you need to be able to get access and up close and intimate with it.
Hmm.
And so you need ships that are nimble, built for the regions they're exploring, and are small. And so, as I said, our biggest ship is 148 guests. Our smallest is 28 guests on the Amazon. So you've got this wonderful little collection of vessels that are built to get in and explore.
Right.
So up in Alaska, and look, also all the things that make an expedition, right? An expedition should not be paying for add-ons. It shouldn't be, oh, I've got to pay to go over on a Zodiac or a kayak or paddleboard. An expedition by its name is doing all those things. It's being out and active. So all of that is included with us.
Yes.
But up in Alaska, our biggest ships are 100 guests.
Yes.
Okay, so we built these two gorgeous little vests, the National Geographic Venture and the Quest, in 2018 and 19. And these ships are 100 guests. There's 22 little balcony suites on them. There's some nice little suites upstairs, connecting rooms. We do a lot of multi-gen families, dedicated solos. And I keep saying intimate because you want to keep everything intimately scaled on the ship to keep the ship smaller as well.
Yep.
So, you know, you don't have 2,000 square foot suites. That is not what our focus is. Our focus is on getting up close and personal, right? So it's beautifully appointed, everything you need, all of the expeditionary tools, the Zodiacs, the kayaks, the paddle boards. We have our photography program on board, which is our Lindblad National Geographic Photography. And we have a Lindblad National Geographic certified photo expert. Try saying that 3 times fast.
Yeah, exactly. No.
But these amazing women and men are there to help your guests to get the best photography of their life. And that can be on a cell phone. These guys have amazing photographic capabilities now, right? So cell phone classes, SLR classes, there are B&H photo lockers on our ship. So if you want to try a new zoom lens or a pair of Swarovski crystal binoculars, we do have that capability. You check them out in the morning, bring them back in the evening. You've got a Global Explorers program, which is put together with National Geographic Education, which is focused on our under 18-year-old guests. So they really understand and appreciate what they're seeing, right? There's a field educator. They get to take plankton samples. They learn to drive Zodiacs. I can tell you the scariest thing is being on a Zodiac driven by a 7-year-old.
I would think.
All the parents want to do it as well. It's like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But it gives all layers of a multi-gen family the opportunity to learn. So for us, it's taking all of this experience for over 55 years and distilling it into opportunities for our guests to get out and explore and really see Alaska. And I'm glad you said it's, you know, it's not necessarily a resurgence. I think that people are finally understanding what Alaska is. It's not shopping in Ketchikan and Juneau.
Right. Alaska
is these tiny little narrow waterways where you wake up and walk out onto your balcony and you are surrounded by otters with little babies, or you look in the trees and there are so many bald eagles that looks like Christmas, little white Christmas on trees. Or you're up on our bridge, because we have an open bridge. You're up on the bridge with the captain and our spotters, and you can see grizzlies on the grassland where you're going to go hiking in a couple of hours. When you get off, you can put your hand next to their paw prints and you understand the size, right? It's having different options each day, a long hike, a short hike, a Zodiac safari, to kind of explore at your own pace. But you know, it's those ships. We also have some littler ships that are a little older. Our gorgeous National Geographic Seabird and the National Geographic Sea Lion. They're 62 guests. Now these ships are 35 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They are beloved.
Mm-hmm.
Tiny little ships that do what we called our wild programs, which is a bit
Mm-hmm.
more active. I
Okay.
like it's more like a glamping
Okay.
experience.
Yeah, sure.
It's for a little bit more hardy client, someone
Mm-hmm.
who, it's what's out there is definitely the focus.
Yep.
It's still the same caliber of expedition team. There's still the wonderful local cuisine, because we focus on purchasing all of our cuisine from within about 100 miles of our ship, so that we focus on the flavors and the tastes of Alaska.
I love that.
But yeah, right. So there's nothing worse than being on a ship or in a trip and they're serving something from a completely different place. It's like,
Right. Exactly. Like,
yeah,
how did it get to this ship and like how long has it been here?
right, right. So we actually have fishermen come to the back of the ship. We have all the
Oh,
berries that
nice.
are grown locally in our preserves. Anna Estevez, our hotel director, has done or does a remarkable job at showcasing the flavors of the regions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on every one of our ships in every place. But Alaska is so special because it is such an amazing wealth of brilliant foods,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we really play on that. But these two little ships do some more rugged things like mountain biking and going into
Right.
Haines, Alaska, and being able to do, river rafting, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, and then this year we were kind of talking about the Orion, really
Mm-hmm.
excited for 22. We actually have her in Alaska for
How
a short
fun.
season. And she's doing these really cool trips from Vancouver to Seward, which
Okay.
is that whole, so misty fjords all the way up through the Indian Islands, all the way up into some of the most beautiful glacier areas on the way to Seward. And then she does that's 15 days. And then she does a 10-day, which is from Vancouver to Sitka. But once again, because she's only 102 guests, it's that intimacy of exploration.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, there's something for everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds like it just sounds absolutely divine. I can't wait. I can't wait to do it. I'm ready to
Well,
go
and look,
tomorrow.
and as you said, it is brilliant for those clients who maybe aren't ready to make that jump to international travel yet,
Right.
right? They want to get out of the contiguous states. They want to go and explore. They want to be outside. People are sick
Yeah.
of being locked inside,
Yeah.
right? They want to be back out in nature and at the face of it. And that's what these trips do. But it's very different from what most people perceive Alaska to be, which is that inner waterway, a big ship,
Yeah.
binoculars to see the
Well,
bears.
it's the scenic cruise versus the expedition cruise. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with a scenic
No.
cruise at all. It's just it's knowing what, you're after. And I've booked both for different types of clients. So shameless plug here. That's where a travel advisor comes in and is valuable, is in helping you make some of these decisions and being educated about the options.
Yeah.
So let me back up for just one second because you
Yes.
said open bridge. So explain what an open bridge is
Yeah.
and what you might actually, see and experience differently from there versus other parts of the ship.
Yeah, so the bridge, of course, that's where the captain and the team are. This is where you actually drive the ship from.
Mhm.
But we have an open bridge policy on all of our vessels. So you can come up, as long as we're not docking,
Yeah.
you can come up, sit with the captain, sit with the team, learn what it's like from their experience of traversing these amazing waterways, oceans, seas that we explore. But it's also the best seat in the house because that's where
Hmm.
your expedition team are going to be with the spotting scopes, looking
Yeah.
for bear. Early morning, I'll tell you, Alaska, get up early,
Yeah.
go to bed late.
Yeah.
That early morning light, the bear, that's when the bear are coming down. That's when you can hear those eagles kind of talking off in the background. It's just that stillness is absolutely beautiful.
Mm.
But being able to be up there and understand everything it takes to make an expedition happen. It's while you're sleeping, your expedition team, your expedition leader, the captain, the team, they're all looking at weather, they're looking at tides, they're looking at access points. They are continually working to maximize the time we're in these places.
Mm.
And so to see that dance at play up on the bridge
Yeah.
is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it's, you're in one of my favorite places in the United States because I'm a bit of a bourbon lover, but
Yeah.
I love to go and grab my bourbon and go and sit up at the back and just
Yeah.
kind of take in
Yeah.
at sunset and the evening and watch the team at work,
Yeah.
but coffee, whatever you like.
Yeah.
But it is about providing you every level of access. I mean, for anyone who's an engineer, understanding how these ships work.
Hmm.
It's really just another layer to the experience as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's a perfect segue into understanding how these ships work. So, how are these ships not polluting and not making a mess? And how are you being, we're talking about sustainability, which is, is
Yeah,
the buzzword. But for me anyway, it is a huge passion point in
yeah.
my, what I book and travel. I want to know that the companies that I'm working with are doing everything they can to make sure that they're not making a negative impact on the environment. So, and I know that this is something that this company has worked very hard at. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, look, from the very beginning, sustainability, I don't even think that was the catchphrase back then. It,
Hmm.
it was just a given that if we were going to go to places back in the days of Lars Eric and then when Sven took over the company, that we were going to do it with a very gentle footprint and ensure that we gave back to the places that we were exploring, that we weren't going there and taking, we were giving.
Yeah.
What is that saying, that people who give feel better than the people who take?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean, you working for a company that is continuously giving to the places we explore, it's just a really wonderful feeling. And so for us, sustainability, caring for not only the wildlife, the oceans, the cultures of the places we explore, ensuring that we are responsible to the cultures in places like the Amazon or the Inuit up in Canada or anywhere we go. Caring for that, but also ensuring that we're purchasing sustainable cuisine.
Hmm.
We're not buying seafood that is not sustainably sourced or
Right.
harvested. All of those levels, I mean, it's multi-levels that you have to look at, down to our office in New York, right? Ensuring that everything is recycled, that we're
Hmm.
not purchasing even our lunches in non-recyclable containers,
Right.
every aspect. I think one of the things on our ships that's really important, we are a fully 100% carbon neutral company. So
Hmm.
we offset all of our carbon footprint. And we have a brilliant sustainability brochure that you can share with your clients, which will
Hmm.
talk them through all of the aspects of our programs. But we're carbon neutral. When you're on board, there's no single-use consumer plastics.
Hmm.
And that's a big job
It's
going
very
through
big.
everything,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it
Because
is.
you've got pens. They all came in plastic bags. Well, you have to
Hmm.
go back to suppliers and say, well, you have to find an alternative. We will not take plastic wrapping on anything that's delivered to our ships. Looking at ensuring you've got wonderful water stations. So you have these reusable water bottles your
Right.
guests, they receive, they get to take them home, so that you're always using your water bottle. It's even down to the point with our parkas that we have
Uh-huh.
in the Arctic and Antarctica. They come in a reusable laundry bag that you
Nice.
can use when you go home,
Yeah.
or if you're out hiking, you take it with you and you can pick up any trash you see on the beaches, so that we're helping
Nice.
with trash. So it's thinking of every aspect
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
sure that we're not just going and we're not just saying, oh yes, we're sustainable because we're doing
Hmm.
a few little dabbles here, but that every level of the company looks at this and tries to figure out how they can lessen their footprint.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. It's so important. Excuse me. I also wanted to just point out too that as you mentioned Virtuoso earlier on, my host agency is a Virtuoso member, and I'm part of the Virtuoso adventure community. So there's a lot of little steps there. But when I book trips for people with you all, they get a little extra amenity that folks that don't book through a Virtuoso travel advisor don't get. And tell us what that is.
Yeah, so you do get a lovely little shipboard credit. And as we said, nearly everything's included. So it's $50 a cabin. But
Right.
the thing that I love the most, and this is because you're a member of the adventure community, which I
Mm-hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
we have a videographer on all of our Lindblad National Geographic ships. And our videographer is filming every day and grabbing aspects of the trip for all of our guests. And at the end, there's this beautiful DVD. It now comes on a little credit card, so it's not a big clunky DVD, but
Right,
it's
right.
a recording stick. And that has this wonderfully compiled video of that week's exploration. There's,
uh,
there's no canned footage. It's just what's happened this week with all your new
mhm.
friends, that community you forged on the ship. And so that is added to bookings for our adventure community team members. So
Nice.
your clients that are traveling with us to Alaska coming up here soon,
Yeah.
will be something that they'll receive when they disembark. And that is such a brilliant memory, because I will tell you one thing. One of the little tricks and hints I will give to anyone traveling, be it on Lindblad or any experiential product, stop and put the camera down, right? We live
Yes.
behind the camera lens. And the most remarkable moments of any trip is when you put it down and you're 100% in the place.
Yeah. Well, I could not agree with that more. I think I learned my lesson there. My first time I went to Kenya, I spent so much time taking so many pictures and was so overwhelmed with it all. But then when I went back the next time, I didn't take nearly as many pictures, and I just absorbed it. And it was just really, it does make a big change. Not that you shouldn't take pictures, but it's definitely something where that just taking it in. And I'm still got that picture in my mind of sitting on the bridge. And for me, it'd be with my cup of coffee early in the morning.
Yeah.
But I just have that vision of just doing that and just soaking it up. So,
Yeah.
oh
I
my
would
gosh.
definitely even say, Robin, one of my little hints I've taught myself is whenever I'm traveling now, I set an alarm on my phone for a 2-minute moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it just reminds me each day to put the camera down, put the phone down, and just whatever you are, for hike, on the bridge, that you just listen and be present, I think is really, particularly on expeditionary product, right? You want to be there.
Yeah.
So it certainly makes a difference. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so great. And thank you so much for joining me, Lisa. I appreciate it. And like I said, we'll have to do it again. I really want to talk about the Kimberly because that is
Ah,
so high on my list. As many
yeah.
times as I've been to Australia and as much as I love it, I have not done the Kimberly yet. So
Oh, look, yes, I
that's
would be happy to come back, and it's my favorite place on the planet, and
all
so
right.
few people
Okay. Well, we're
understand
gonna
it.
do
So
that. We're definitely
we can
gonna
do that.
do that. We'll pick a date and we'll do that for sure. Now that Australia is open, yes,
Yes,
finally, yes,
yeah.
and you're getting to go home soon too.
Next,
Yeah.
not next, so this Thursday, 3 days from
Great.
now.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Can't
well,
wait.
I'm glad we got this in before you headed off. And again, thank you so much for your time. This has been wonderful.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks, mate.